Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Thanks for deciding to spend some of your day with us, wherever you might be doing that, whether that's on YouTube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, Twitter X @FantasyGuruSite. Whether you're at FantasyGuru.com and just clicking on the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page, or if you're typing Fantasy Sports Daily into your local podcast network to find us there, thank you so much. On Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter X, you can watch the show live there. You can ask comments, leave questions that we'll address throughout the show. And you can also obviously watch on demand too, because there's the ability to do that with those platforms. You can also just do the podcast, right? If you just want to listen and not take a look at what we're doing. I'm Ray Flowers of FG. Thanks for joining me again today. Tell a friend about the show, free show. We have a lot of fun here. I'm with you Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Justin Fensterman is here on Wednesdays. On Wednesdays, I'm with Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. That show is Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. This show is at 12 o'clock. We go about an hour, Monday through Friday. And then every night, 8 to 10 Eastern on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Justin Fensterman and I have the Elite Sports Game Time Show. So we're here at 12 o'clock Eastern. Jeff Mans takes over at 3 o'clock Eastern on SiriusXM. Justin and I back on the bus at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Hope you had a nice weekend. It's a Monday, so this is what we're going to do on the show today, which obviously includes a lot of baseball talk. This is the only day of the week where all we do is baseball. Every other day of the week, we mix and match, getting in football. Tuesdays, we have Armando Marsal join us to talk football. Thursdays, Tyler Beaker joins me to talk football. Fridays, Russell Clay joins me to talk football. And Armando's on Wednesdays with Justin Alp and talk hoops that day on the show. We're going to talk about guys like Glasnow, some bullpen situations to monitor, Williams and Martinez. Jackson Jobe, Jorge, Polanco, Josh Jung, Agustin, Ramirez, Chandler, Simpson, Anthony Santander, Heliot, Ramos, and Andy Pages. Got a question that was sent in, so we'll deal with that. Games played maxes, is that a thing? Should it be a thing? What are my thoughts on that? We'll talk about that as well. And then we'll dive into the FAAB review of Tout Wars, LABR, and FSGA. All right, so let's make a little change there, and let's just dive into the news. Okay, starting off, we got a situation. I don't know what's going on with Tyler Glasnow. And this, again, I feel bad because it's like all I would do on the show is talk injured pitchers, right? But the fact is, all the pitchers are injured. I'm only exaggerating. It's like, I can't even keep track anymore of Tyler Glasnow and the injuries. The Dodgers have a chance to win 115 games. The Dodgers have a chance to be in the playoffs and have their entire pitching staff hurt. So we've already got Blake Snell down. Tyler Glasnow is dealing with a shoulder issue. They're not certain he's going to the injured list. I mean, come on, it was his calf, his ankle, whatever it was, just shoulder. I'm almost positive Tyler Glasnow is going to the injured list. And again, the Dodgers haven't made that determination yet. But this is why the Dodgers have all these depth guys. It's why they're, Kershaw's important. It's why Gonsolin's important. It's why Bobby Miller, if he can stop walking everybody, why he could become important for this team. Tyler Glasnow has thrown 130 innings once in his career, and his career began in 2016. So this is his 10th season in the bigs. He's thrown 130 innings once. It was last year. He's thrown 130 innings once. Blake Snell, his rotation mate, has thrown 130 innings twice. At this point in time, Blake Snell's not hitting 130 innings this year. That's not happening. Is Glasnow? Again, we take these players as, top 15, top 20 pitchers because of the talent. But if they're throwing 126 innings, is it worth the juice? Squeeze worth the juice? It's not. That's why we talk about it all the time at FG, why we talk about it on the show. The idea that, spending those early round draft picks on pitching just really doesn't work. And here's another example of Glasnow, who's been wonky. Anyway, he's got a 1.3 whip, which is not bad, but he's walking 5.5 guys per 9. He hasn't been very good in his 5 outings anyway. We'll have to wait and see with the shoulder issue, and it's likely that he's headed to the injured list. That'd have to be my assumption at this point. We had a couple of bullpen situations, and later in the show, we'll talk about FAAB, and this is why it's really important. You'll see the expenditures on some of these guys, why it's really important to work ahead here. It's why I added Duvall a couple of weeks ago in the league. It's why I drafted Luke Weaver this year in the league. You got to get ahead of this, because if you don't get ahead of this and you wait to react, the cost through the roof, right? And this is also something that goes back to the preseason that we talked about in one of the leagues in particular. I wrote an article, handcuffing your relievers. And I went out and made a point. I drafted AJ Puck and Justin Martinez ahead of their ADP because I wanted to get that bullpen. Martinez, we'll talk about him in a sec. Yeah. But when AJ Puck went down with injury with the forearm issue, I had Martinez lined up. I'm not saying you should have drafted Luke Weaver if you had Devin Williams. I'm not saying you should have done that. I'm saying you could have done it. You know, I'm not saying you should have drafted Camilo Doval, but if you had Ryan Walker, you could have done it. I mean, that's, you know, and what people want to do, and we talk about this in fantasy football all the time, we talk about handcuffing running backs. What people want to do is they want to get two guys. They want to get one closer, and then they want to get another guy that's not the closer. But if things work out, he becomes the closer, and I got two closers, instead of just locking down the closer for the Giants, or locking down the closer for the Yankees, or locking down the closer for the Guardians, whatever it might be. And I think that when you talk about taking Justin Martinez and AJ Puck as a duo, that made a lot of sense to do when we talked about it. But those guys are being drafted, you know, 15th round plus, right? If you're taking Devin Williams in the 5th round, you're taking Emmanuel Clase in the 4th round. You know, you're taking Ryan Walker in the 7th round. Those guys are really costly. Back them up. You know, you don't need insurance on your bicycle. You damn well need insurance on your vehicle, your car, right? Bicycle gets stolen, it's $1,000, it sucks. Your car gets stolen, it's 25 grand. Well, maybe it's 50 grand, depending on what kind of car you drive. Maybe it's only 5 grand. I don't know. But you get the point. Get insurance on your most valuable commodities. People don't want to do it in fantasy. They don't do it in fantasy. They should. Devin Williams has been removed from the closer's role, going back to that directly. He's been awful. Just awful. And this is surprising. He obviously missed time last year with a back injury, but the expectation was he was fully healthy. He got paid. He's going to the Yankees. He's going to get all these opportunities, and he's sucked. Meanwhile, Fernando Cruz has been very effective, and Luke Weaver's been really good. So Luke Weaver's got to be the guy right now. We wrote about the bullpens last week, late in the week over at fantasyguru.com, did the closer grid update. I guess you all grabbed Luke Weaver yesterday, right? So, I mean, at this point in time, this is not for me an Alexis Diaz situation where Alexis Diaz is like on the cusp of never really getting the job back kind of thing. Devin Williams, when he's right, is dynamic. Even Alexis Diaz, when he was right, never really dynamic. He missed bats, but he had control issues. And, you know, Devin Williams is the answer when he's on, right? So I'm not giving up Devin Williams. If you have Devin Williams, I can't recommend at this point in time dropping him. Hopefully you added Luke Weaver. You know, if you had Devin Williams, or even if you didn't have Devin Williams, you had a Luke Weaver. We'll see. But yeah, for now, hold on to him if you can. Justin Martinez, speaking of him, he's had that shoulder fatigue. They're saying dead arm or whatever. They're not saying he's hurt or anything like that. He got the save on Sunday, so that's good news because he took some time off. But his velocity was down 2.5, 3 miles an hour. Like, yeah. So Shelby Miller and Kevin Ginkel got to be on your watch list now, because AJ Puck, we still haven't got the full clarity on what his situation is, but we have to think his season's over, right? That's the expectation, or at least he's going to miss significant time with the forearm injury. Getting multiple opinions is never a good thing. Maybe we'll be surprised. But Justin Martinez, again, dead arm is, for those people wondering what the hell is dead arm, it's basically that period of time where you've thrown and thrown and thrown, and you're just not getting the response. Sometimes pitchers go through this. Often it's in spring training. Can be different with relievers. They're not throwing 75 pitches an outing, right? They're out there throwing 18 pitches. Hopefully that's all it is with Martinez. I don't think they would let him pitch if there was anything really wrong with his arm, because, I mean, they desperately need him now, especially with the Puck situation. So keep an eye on this. But again, Shelby Miller and Kevin Ginkel should be on your watch list, because those are kind of the next men up with the Diamondbacks. Jackson Jobe, and this happens a lot to young pitchers. Jackson Jobe, who we've talked about a lot here on the show, you know, one of the guys that was ranked very highly. Don't forget, there's a top 50 rookie article over at fantasyguru.com. Ranked very highly. Speaking of rankings, by the way, I should tell everyone, it's almost May 1st. May 1st, the rankings get updated at fantasyguru.com. All the rankings. I redo all the rankings. I'm starting that today. All the rankings get updated. So 600 plus players are updated the first of every month. So I'm looking forward to that, so I can stop answering either or questions. But those will be up on the 1st of May, and then the Solds rankings will be updated on the 2nd of May. Jackson Jobe was going to have his next start on Wednesday this week. He had a start skipped, basically. So he's going to have, I think, 12 days between outings. They have to manage youngsters. The Tigers do. Everyone does. You have to manage these youngsters, right? Make sure that they're around. You don't want to, if they have 130 innings to pitch, as an example, or 140 innings to pitch, you're going to run out of innings in mid-August if you just go, right? So they'll maybe do a skip start here or there. Maybe they'll have a short outing here or there. They skipped Jobe's last outing. So in theory, this will help long term. But it does bring up a question here, because 12 days is a long time. It's a long time to go when you're used to pitching every 5 games. When you're a veteran, when you're Jose Quintana, you've been through the wars, and when you're Jackson Jobe, how does that go? We don't know. So he's facing the Astros this week. He could come out there and be rolling. Could be firing gas. Could have poor control because he's too amped up. I don't know. They haven't announced officially that they're going to a 6-man rotation, but Keter Montero's kind of in the rotation now. So Tigers, as they did down the stretch last year, kind of mixing and matching, trying to win games. They were very effective doing it last year. They're trying to recapture the same thing this year, and we'll see how that impacts the starting rotation long term. Jack Leiter returned as Kumar Rocker heads out for the Rockies with injury. Jackson Leiter's back from his blister issue, and he was a mess. Yeah, walked 4 guys in 3 1/3 innings, healthy, which is good news. He only got 4 swings and misses on the 31 swings, so his stuff wasn't popping as it had been prior to the injury. Faces the Mariners next time out. The Mariners not a team to fear, though we'll talk about one of their guys here coming up. So, he's healthy and he's back, Leiter, but that wasn't the same guy that we saw prior to the blister. It was 1 outing. Let's not get crazy here. But not what you want to see. And unfortunately, that is something that we have seen from Leiter. So every time this happens, it's not like this is happening to Framber Valdez, and we know a little bit of concern there with Jack Leiter. And then Nick Lodolo, I saw him mentioned in the chat room. And I said this last week, and I'll just reiterate it one last time here on the show. I'm not answering Nick Lodolo questions anymore. So don't ask me any Nick Lodolo questions in the Discord. I'm tired of answering and fending off questions for a guy that right now has got a 2.5 ERA and his WHIP is under 1. Was fantastic. 7 scoreless against the Rockies, on Sunday. I saw it mentioned here in the chat room. Hopefully you all drafted Lodolo on my recommendation. Hopefully you've all kept them and not dropped them or traded them, as we talked about last week. Incessantly, I've been pestered with, do I drop or trade Nick Lodolo questions? I just don't get it. Hopefully you're holding on. We'll see how it plays out, but he's off to a good start for the Reds this season. Okay, Jorge Polanco is obviously a veteran. In my leagues, he was drafted in most of my leagues, certainly rostered a long time ago in my leagues, but I know a lot of you are in more shallow leagues. Maybe Jorge Polanco is sitting out there, and he went 3 for 4 with 2 doubles, a couple RBIs on Sunday. I don't know if you've looked up and noticed this. You probably have if you did any kind of search. He's hitting almost 380 with the 400 on base percentage and a 700 slugging percentage. Like right now, he's Ted Williams. Like he's out of control. Now, the situation with Polanco is one that we know who he is. He's a veteran. He's been around. He's had a lot of health issues. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. He's only 31. And, he's got a 30 home run season. He's got another home run season of 20 plus. Looking at what he's done now, 7 home runs in 20 games is an outstanding mark that he obviously has no chance of holding on to. Love seeing the 12% strikeout rate. He's locked in right now. And I know how this game goes. A lot of you want to jump on the next guy who's locked in. Jorge Polanco's locked in. So if you want to pick him up and ride him for a couple of weeks and see how it goes, okay. Long term, despite what we're seeing now, he's a 260 hitter. He's going to hit 20 home runs if he's healthy, right? So he's obviously missed the best month he's going to have all year. But it's really good to see him locked into the number 2 spot. He's right there with Cal Raleigh and Julio Rodriguez. So, there's a lot to recommend him. Even if he's hitting 260 with 20 home runs, he can score 80 runs in that spot in the lineup. So keep that in mind with Jorge Polanco, who's off to a really good start on the offensive side of things. Let me make a little change here. There we go. All right. Jace Jung of the Rangers. Ugh. Rough start to the season performance-wise, rough start to the season health-wise, got back on the field after a short stint on the injured list, hurt his hand or finger actually on Sunday. He hurt the finger on a swing, the bat broke. Then he opened it up when he made a barehand play. So if you have him, I don't think you're starting him this week anyway, so this is really just an FYI kind of thing. We'll have to monitor his situation. Could end up on the injured list for those of you in deeper leagues, so if you have Josh Jung and he's your third baseman, you got to have a third baseman you're going with this week because he's not even sure to play And anyway, he's been performing very poorly to date for the Rangers. Agustin Ramirez, who we'll see in the Discord or the FAAB articles here, because remember, my leagues are different than yours. A couple of my leagues, including LABR, which we'll see him in a second here when we talk to FAAB. In Tout Wars, you can add a player anytime you want. You can add a minor leaguer anytime you want. Who cares? In LABR, you can't add a player unless he's on the big league roster. So Ramirez, we got the information last Sunday that he was being called up, but he wasn't officially on the roster until after FAAB ran. So in LABR, unable to add Ramirez. In Tout Wars, I added Ramirez. Okay, so again, the leagues are just different. Your league probably added Ramirez when he's called up. Hopefully you did after we talked about him last Monday. You missed the best week he's ever going to have in his life, and it's been spectacular. He's stolen a base. He's hit 3 home runs. He's almost batting 500. His OPS is like 1,600. He has been terrific, and this is not he's winning MVP. This is not he's going to be a superstar. This is Agustin Ramirez of the Marlins is now in this lineup. Like he's going to have to suck for a month to come out of this lineup. And that's what we wanted to see with him to get off to this hot start. It's what youngsters need because teams turn to these young players and they say, here you go, kid. You got 2 weeks, go. What are you going to do with it? And Ramirez has said, I'm here and I'm doing it. So this is great news. He's locked into the lineup, I have to think, potentially all season long. He should be catcher eligible in every league, though. How much catching he actually performs is an open-ended question. Bat is legit. Can steal a base, as we've talked about already here, and we talked about when we profiled him last week. But just a fantastic week, and looking like a really strong option for those of you in 2 catcher leagues, as we talked about when he was promoted. Looking like a banger here as your second catching option. Chandler Simpson. Someone was asking me a question about Chandler Simpson, who's on the waiver wire. Like, I'm stunned. We talked about Simpson last week. He was costing about 20-25% of people's FAAB budgets to add. He went 3 for 4 yesterday. Scored a couple of runs, had a steal, making great defensive plays in the outfield. He's been fantastic, and it's a week, so let's not get banana pants here, right? But look at this start. He's 12 for 30, so he's batting 400. He's got a 450 on base percentage, 9% walk rate. He can sustain that. 12% strikeout rate. He can sustain that. As we talked about. As good as he's likely to be as 4-wise in the batting average column, he could be a producer in the on-base percentage category, which is kind of what we're seeing here. This has been a terrific start. And at the end of the day, 3 steals in 8 games, let's go. Right? Like he's been caught once, but he's run 4 times in 8 games. Obviously, if you play 160 games and you run 80 times, he's going to steal 65, 70 bases, right? And that would not be surprising given his background and his speed and his skills and all that. So the first week plus here for Simpson has been as expected, as good as possibly could have been hoped for. Lived up to all the costs and expectations. Interestingly, he's doing the kind of platoon. He's batting leadoff here. He's batting 8th there. Would love to see him grab the leadoff spot. I have Yandy Diaz, so I don't necessarily want Diaz dropping down the order. But Chandler Simpson's got a sight set on the leadoff spot for the Rays. Anthony Santander, his 3rd home run of the season on Sunday. He's been bad. And, this happens. Guys go through slumps and ups and downs. You always worry about a guy like Santander in a new spot. I got a bunch of questions about Cody Bellinger in Discord this morning. You always worry about a guy like Santander going to a new team. Is he not comfortable there? He got $92.3 million. Is he phoning it in because he got paid? There's always these concerns. But the bottom line with Santander is that he had 44 home runs last year, and it was never right or fair to think he was going to hit 44 home runs this year. He's basically he had the previous 2 years 33 and 28. So let's call him a 30 home run guy. He's still to get there. No, there's no problem. Remember, we talk about this. It's 1.16 home runs a week to get to 30. If we're talking a 26-week season. 1.16. He's got 3 right now in 30 games, which is not good. But he can hit 3 home runs in the next 4 days, and all of a sudden we're back right on our pace. So 30 home runs is still doable for him. The real concern with him is that the strikeout rate is up at 25%, which is not a bad number, but it's really high for him. It was 19% last year. Though I will say the walk rate is up too. So again, I don't mind his walk to strikeout ratio is basically unchanged. The exit velocity number unchanged. The barrel rate is down, so he's not squaring the ball up as much. And when he's hitting the ball, his launch angle is off about 4 degrees. So still kind of working into it, but I think Santander, given his track record, given the fact he's going to play every day, Given the fact that the strikeout rate is very likely to come down based on his historical precedent, I think he's a solid option to address on the trade market. If someone else has Santander, they're pissed off, I'll make a decent offer. I mean, I don't have to be that good of an offer. People have short memories here. So I'm sticking with Santander if at all possible. Heliot Ramos went 2 for 3 with a steal and a run scored on the weekend. And I've had questions about him, multiple questions about him the last few days over at FG. And, you know, there's a player profile on him at fantasyguru.com. So I broke him down and talked about him and all that. I think expectations are something we always have to manage in the fantasy game. And I get the sense that some people thought Ramos was a player that he's not, right? When I write a player profile, I say this guy can be a 4th or 5th outfielder. A 4th or 5th outfielder like Heliot Ramos is hitting 271 with 21 home runs and 73 RBIs and 81 runs scored with 7 steals. Okay. Could he do all of what I just said even with this slow start? Absolutely. Is any of that exciting? No. Is any of that, wow? No. Who did you expect Heliot Ramos to be? Now, we expect him to hit better than 213. I'm not going to sit here and say, come on, let's not be stupid. 1 RBI in 20 games. I get it. Okay. But he's the same guy. And he's the same guy I warned about in the player profile before the season began. So I'd try to hold on to him if I could. If you're in a 3 outfielder league, okay. If you're in a 5 outfielder league, hard to get rid of Heliot Ramos. Don't go grab Mickey Moniak. Like, it's hard to do that. Finally, Andy Pages went for 4 for 5 with the home run and 4 RBIs on Sunday. The last week, his OPS went up like 300 points. So all of a sudden, the numbers went from crap to pretty good. And this is what happens early in the season. We talk about it all the time. His OPS is now up to 860. That's that's an all-star level, excuse me. You look at his batted ball profile, and what do you see? You see league average on base percentage. League average batting average of balls in play, league average exit velocity, league average to below hard hit rate, league average barrel rate. Like, there's just a lot of average here. You see strikeout rate average, walk rate average. Like, I'm just going, even right now, I'm going through all these numbers, and there's just a lot of average here. I think one thing that does ding him a little bit is obviously the strength of the team, of the Dodgers. He's hit 6th in 2 of the last 4 games. So if he's hitting 6th, there's more intrigue here. But most of the time he's hit 8th or 9th. And really in this lineup, when they're healthy, he's probably hitting 8th or 9th. So Pages is not a bad player at all to pick up. He's somebody that's got a moderate hit tool. He does have some pop. He's not going to steal bases. I think he could produce a Heliot Ramos-like season. Those numbers I just gave, that could happen with Andy Pages. Would I expect it to? No. Would I expect the Dodgers to just let him do his thing forever sorry, there was a noise in the background. Let him do his thing forever if he's hitting 210? No. They'd go and make a move. So be careful with Andy Pages. Short term, sure. Long term, a little bit of concern. What's that noise? Hold on, everybody. We got a little noise situation. Hold on. All right, I apologize. The noise was a running toilet that I could hear from the other room, so I ran in there and shut it off real quickly. So apologies for that. I don't think I've ever done that. Ran away in the middle of the show. Oh my gosh. We're back now. Andy Pages again. Be very cautious with him. Short term, sure. Long term, eh. We had a question that I wanted to address here on the show before we talk FAAB. And it came in the Discord from Hickory Bunch. We'll throw it up on the screen right now. Hickory said, I play in leagues with games played maxes per position. I'm curious your take on if the games played maxes are necessary. You're always taking a risk one way or the other by having more games played with the ratios versus the counting stats. Good question, Hickory. Let's address it here on the show. I think that the truth of the matter is that games played limits, they're 1999. It's very passe. Now, I am not in any league. Not in any, I was thinking to make sure. I'm not in any league where this is even a thing. It's just not a thing. If you play 145 games at a position, you play 164 at a position. It is what it is, right? Now, I know a lot of you are in head-to-head leagues and that kind of thing. Hickory's right about one thing. When you max out the games played, you're doing one of two things, really. You are either targeting ratios or you're targeting counting stats. Most of the times when you max it out, you're targeting counting stats, right? And you're probably hurting your ratios. What you're doing is you're trying to get the extra run or the extra RBI, the extra home run by rolling guys through your lineup that aren't guys that normally would be in your lineup. So this question really comes down to how deep is your league, right? Does your league have large benches? Does your league have the open waiver wire? Like all this kind of stuff. The idea being that, and I know I remember back in the day I used to play on Yahoo, and there were always the 162 games per position, and you had to keep an eye on that, right? And that's a big thing. They did it in hockey, they did it in basketball, they did it in all the leagues. Again, to me, now I will say to me it doesn't matter because I'm not in leagues that are foolishly open waiver wire. If you have an open waiver wire, which unfortunately I know a lot of you do, and I don't understand why you do, if there's open waiver wire, you got to have limits. Because there can be super aggressive people in your league that, you're playing it straight and you're got 159 at this position and 161 at this position, and someone else in your league's got 170 at every position. Well, are they going to be ahead of you? So I think if you have an open waiver wire, you need this. I think having an open waiver wire for all the reasons we've discussed forever is freaking stupid, just dumb. And I've, again, talked about this forever. But if you're in one of those setups, Hickory, I think you kind of need it because there are people that will, get every ounce out of their team that's possible. And if the rules allow it, that's what you do. There is a balancing act, though, so be cautious. You don't want to just run out there and grab Max Muncy, who's in a horrible tailspin because you're looking for a home run. Fine, you go out and pop a home run for you in that game. You can also go for 4 or 3 strikeouts, right? So you're right to say that there is a concern about what you're actually trying to target. I personally think that this is a very passe system setup. It shouldn't be that way, but it has to be there to combat an open waiver wire, which I know a lot of the leagues you're in are that way, folks. So there you go. Good question, Hickory. All right, let's move on. Take a look here before we talk a little bit of waiver wire. See what we got here in the chat. Oh, there it is, Rubby 17. I think that's Nick Lodolo. Good work, Nick Lodolo. Angelo said, all my pitchers stunk yesterday, but I won my week thanks to Alvarado. That's good to hear. Brandon says, happy Friday. Brandon, for those of you that miss it, always thinks it's Friday. Brandon's got a pretty good life. Go, Brandon. Brandon said, Ray, I did something I rarely do. I went against your advice. I added Agustin Ramirez and dropped Hunter Goodman in a 10-team NL only league. I know it's early, but Ramirez kid seems legit. Look, in an NL only league, you shouldn't ever drop Hunter Goodman, ever. Agustin Ramirez can't be on the waiver wire in an NL league. It's really interesting to me. A lot of you, I've sensed this, and I know specifically I deal with multiple people on Discord. A lot of you are in like NL or AL only leagues, and you have like no bench. If you're going to be in an NL or AL only league, why do you restrict the roster so much? Like, just play a mixed league. Like, if you're doing an AL and NL only league, you should be in a 12-team league with 23 starting spots and 6 bench spots. You should just do it because there's no point to do an NL or AL only league if you're going to have 14 active players. Or let's say this, you're going to have 10 active players and 7 active pitchers and 2 bench spots. The whole point of doing an AL or NL only league is to deeply penetrate the player pool. And if you're limiting the amount of starting positions on your team or limiting the size of your bench, you're not really going that deep into the league. So yeah, Hunter Goodman, dropping him in an NL only league is horrible. It's a horrible decision. Agustin Ramirez, again, has to be added in it. So this is a question for a mixed league. No one that's in an NL only league should ever be dropping Goodman and not adding Ramirez. So, again, I don't quite understand the setups everyone's in, but hey, to each their own, I guess. So there's some comments. Let's talk some FAAB here, and we'll come back. Keep leaving those comments if you want. Let's talk some FAAB. Let me make myself a little smaller. There we go. So we got 3 leagues we're going to review with the FAAB here. Let me make sure this tweet goes out. Again, you can follow the show live on Twitter X at Fantasy Guru site. Live on Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, live on Elite Sports on YouTube, so YouTube.com/@EliteSports. All those places you can watch the show live, leave comments and questions as we're doing here. You can always obviously watch after the fact as well. All right, let's talk some FAAB here. Free agent acquisition budget. This is the way all leagues should be run, in my opinion. We talked about this a lot. Let's talk about the LABR draft, LABR league first. 15-team mixed league. This is the league where the players have to be on a roster. You can't add minor leaguers before they're promoted. We have $100 to spend all season long in this setup. In this setup, we have to have money left to spend. We can't add players for $0. Excuse me, I had a pork bun this morning for breakfast and it just repeated on me. We can't add players for $0. So you always have to have money left at the end. Agustin Ramirez, who we were just talking about. Again, this is the league we had to, I mentioned this earlier, we have to wait until he's actually promoted. He wasn't promoted in time to have the run last week count. So this week he went for 23 out of $100. That's huge. I was the $11 bid. And as you can see there was an 11, an 11, an 11, an 11, a 13, and a 19. So everyone, I mean, look at all these bids. There's a 15 team league. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12 of the 15 teams bid on them. So again, everyone was in. My $11 bid was, I thought, a good one, but clearly, you know, FTN really wanted him. I have Higashioka as my second catcher here. So, you know, is Higashioka usable long-term in a 15-team mixed league as a second catcher? Yes. Did I want to go crazy here? No. I think I had it last week, Ramirez and Tout Wars. We have a $1,000 budget. $34, $36, something like that. So I really got ahead of things in Tout Wars. And again, that would be, you know, here that'd be a $3 bid, $3 or $4 bid in this setup because that's 1,000. This is 100. So getting them last week really was advantageous for those people that were able to make that move. Jordan Beck went for $16, and look at all the failed bids for him: 8, 8, 7, 4, 4, 4, 3, 2. Jordan Beck is the flavor of the week. You basically replaced Zach Veen in the starting lineup. Jordan Beck went nuts. He too is a player that just had the best week of his entire career. You look at what he's done. I'm pulling up just to make sure I got it correctly. He's got 5 home runs the last 5 games. Just, I mean, crazy pants, right? He also has a 37% strikeout rate. And we talk about the 30% danger zone with strikeouts. It's 37%. It's 35% last year with the Rockies. Just can't, folks. I mean, again, and I don't think this bid here is at all crazy. The $16, 16% of the budget. I don't think it's crazy at all. I bet on Veen. What was Veen? 12% of my budget when I picked him up. So I don't think it's crazy at all to go 16%. As you can see, there was some serious interest. I was one of the $4 bids for Beck. But the bottom line is, with the way the Rockies run their team, which is up, down, not sticking with these young players, which they haven't done for years now. With the fact that, you know, Veen is very likely to go down to the minor leagues and perform. Beck is very likely to have a stretch where he bats, 197 for 2 weeks because the strikeout rate is huge. Who's to say that in 3 weeks from now that it's Beck demoted and Veen's brought back up? If I knew the Rockies were committed, I'd feel more confident about the 16%. Even when I added Veen, we talked about that on the show. Even when I added Veen, I was like, I suggest everyone adds him because, there's talent. There's 15 home run, 25 still talent here. But same thing has to be said with Beck. There's the talent for him to be a significant contributor. He went 20-20 a couple years ago in the minors. He has not made contact as a big leaguer, despite the home run binge lately. There's 5 home runs in 5 games. You cannot be an everyday player with a 37% strikeout rate. So keep that in mind with him. Fernando Cruz, we talked about Fernando Cruz. $5 is pretty aggressive for Fernando Cruz. Let's actually pull this up here. You see the dollar bids and stuff. I think I was one of the dollar bids. What league are we in? We're in the labor league, right? Let's see here. What team got? I'm trying to see where's Devin Williams in this league to see if this is a handcuffing scenario. It's not a handcuffing scenario. Okay. Devin Williams is on Baseball HQ. The Fantasy Fix got Cruz for $5. Again, I think that's a little aggressive. I think that he's right now probably the number 2 guy, Fernando Cruz, in the bullpen. But long term, I still would have to favor Devin Williams. In this league, I drafted Luke Weaver. So I have Luke Weaver, so that's not a scenario. And in this league, I added Camilo Doval a couple of weeks ago. So all of a sudden, I mean, this league, this is the poster boy, my labor league, is the poster child for not drafting closers on draft day. In this league, I want to say I drafted Romano and Liam Hendrickson, right? So what did I do? I picked up Luke Jackson the first week of the season. He's got 8 saves. I drafted Luke Weaver, who's got an ERA of 0 and 2 saves right now. Looks like the closer of the Yankees. I added Camilo Doval a couple of weeks ago. He's got 5 saves and his whip is .9. That's how it can go when you don't take closers. On the other side of things, you could be the guy that misses out on all these players. So there's no right or wrong way to do this. I have always maintained, though, that the drafting of the Haters and the Devin Williams and the Emmanuel Clases and Edwin Diaz, I'm just not in on that. I'm not taking a closer in the first 5 rounds. To me, that's crazy, right? I don't want to always end up with closers, relievers in the 20th round. Like, I don't always want to do that, but you can find success doing that. And in my LABR team, again, with Duvall, Weaver, Luke Jackson, I have Edwin Uceda waiting in reserve too. We'll see how that thing continues to play out. More talk about bids here. As you can see, Andy Page went for $4. Multiple bids for $4 for him. So we just talked about him. Colin Ray went to FTN for 3. Failed bids were 3-3-1-1. I was one of the failed bids at 3. So a right price point, but standings didn't work in my favor for that one. I did get my fallback option, Jake Irvin, for 3. Irvin's been very effective. Remember, this is a 15-team league. He's been very effective. Not a great matchup this week against Philadelphia, but he's been very effective this season, has Jake Irvin. Ryan Gusto for $3. Gusto is an intriguing player. He does things kind of differently. His approach isn't traditional for a starting pitcher, I think is a good way to say it. There's a lot of moving pieces with the Astros. We're getting Lance McCullers back soon. If McCullers returns soon, a couple of weeks maybe. He's in an article that went up this morning over at fantasyguru.com talking about pitching, so check that out this morning. Does Gusto hold on to his starting spot at that point? But again, we're only talking a handful of dollars here for him. Alex Verdugo went for $3. Verdugo's basically become the leadoff guy for the Braves. Now, this is short term, of course. I think Verdugo had 4 hits yesterday, so nice timing here. But Acuna's back 3 weeks, something like that, 4 weeks. When he's back, he goes back to leading off, and if Verdugo's even in the lineup at that point, he's hitting 8th or 9th. Short-term pickup here. 5 outfielders are in this league. Logan Evans for $2. Shelby Miller. We just talked about the situation with Justin Martinez. So Shelby Miller for $2, and that's the way to get ahead of it. Just like I did in this league with Duvall, right? Same thing. Just like I did in this league with Weaver. Getting ahead of it. Ben Kasparius for $2. Dr. Roto. We'll see who takes on the spot in the rotation if Glasnow is indeed down. Is it Gonsolin coming up? Does Kasparius hang around? Do they go 6-man? Here we go. Drew Waters for $2, the eternal prospect. In theory, from this point forward, Drew Waters probably has a 40% chance of being more effective than Jordan Beck, and is 10th the price, but or 8th the price. But there's a lot. I mean, Waters at one point in time was a high-end prospect. He hasn't developed offensively, but he has the ability to hit 15 home runs and still 20 bases. He does have that ability. It just there's always a reason he doesn't get there. Oftentimes it's injury or his own poor performance. No problem with $2, and again, a league this deep with 5 outfield spots. Andrew McCutcheon for $1, another good addition. He's done very well here of late after a slow start to the season. Luis Urias for $1, and Hayden Birdsong to Dr. Roto for $1. Again, my guy Birdsong, he's done a great job in the bullpen. Kind of an odd addition in a solo saves league, because obviously Walker and Duvall are the 1 and 2 guys there. Birdsong, if he's getting a save, it's probably a 3-inning variety. If you look at the starting pitching, it's kind of early to be going that just pure middle reliever route with Birdsong, but Birdsong's been really good. He's taken to the bullpen, and he's been very effective. And in Souls leagues, in my opinion, they'd be a little bit more interested in him. All right, next league up, FSGA 14-team mixed league. This league has $1,000 expenditure. This is the one league I'm in where the waiver wire is open. It's actually open right now. On Monday mornings, the waiver wire is open for a couple hours after the FAAB runs. So you can go pick up players right now for $0. So in this league, you don't have to save any money because there's always the option to add a player for $0. This is what we were talking about with the bullpens. Look at this price point here. I went $67 on Will Vest. Someone else went $77. So I was right in the ballpark. Didn't get Will Vest because the Roto World NBC Sports team went $257. 26% of the budget went on Will Vest. 26%. That's huge. And when you look at we all did this. I did this with Caleb Durbin, right? I spent $190 on Durbin, and the next highest bid was $111 or something, or $80. I don't even remember. It might have been $80, right, last week. So I did this too. And this is, you got to get your guy. You don't know what the room is thinking and all this kind of stuff. But $257 on a guy who's probably the closer in Detroit. Detroit could still use Holton there. Jason Foley's done a great job down in the minors. He's got to be recalled soon. Canley, you know, he's done an excellent job when called upon. Like, that's just a really aggressive number. Now, again, every team's got to address their weaknesses and their holes and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, in this league, if you look at my bullpen, I've got Justin Martinez and Dennis Santana. I also have AJ Puck, Griffin Jacks, Alexis Diaz, and Brian Abreu. So I've got one more week in this league personally where I'm letting these relievers play out before I got to start picking up some crappy starting pitchers, because I can't fall behind the strikeout column substantially and just wait for all these guys, because this is just a traditional saves league. It's not a solds league. But you got to shoot your shot. So 26% on Will Vest. It's a lot. Camilo Duvall in this league. I was 67 on Duvall in this league as well. Wasn't even close. Bids of 74, 127, and then the winning bid was 144. Would I spend 257 on Vest or 144 on Duvall? Probably on Duvall, because both guys are sharing-ish. I guess Vest has a slightly better chance at 25 saves than Duvall does from this point forward, but it's at a substantially higher price point. Again, 26% of your budget versus 14%. But again, Duvall was the player, and in this league, the FSGA league, I almost added Duvall last week for nothing. And again, you know, this is how it goes. I wanted to give a chance to Alexis Diaz one more week. Let me see if I can pull this up and see if I'm remembering this accurately. Let's look at week 5. Flowers. Where are you, Ray Flowers? I didn't bid on him last week, so that was incorrect. That was a different league. So pricey to get guys in the bullpen. Luis Severino for $82. Failed bids for him for $59, 26, 33, 21. Severino's very effective to date. He should continue to be effective. And again, this is a 14-team league. So that's probably a guy I should have added, to be fair. I dropped Alexis Diaz to pick him up. Solid addition, $80, totally fine with that price point. Jordan Beck in this league went for $74, which is obviously half as much as he went for in LABR that we just discussed. This is 7%. In that league, it was 18% or 16%, excuse me. Failed bids for him were 42, 50, 50, 62, 48. Remember we talk about all the time? Never bid big numbers, round numbers, signpost numbers. Never bid 50. I don't know why there's multiple $50 bids. Don't ever do it. Go 53, go 54, go 57. Don't ever do the 50, 100, 25, 10. Don't ever do those bids, because as you see here, there was 2 teams that tied at 50 because they just threw it in. What happened is Jordan Beck's been good. I could take it or leave it if I get him $50. Should have gone 54 or 57. So make sure you don't do that, because that would really suck to lose a guy because you didn't go an extra $1 and the tiebreaker goes to the other person. So keep that in mind. Stowers went for 50 to Fantasy Sherpa. Again, I wouldn't ever go $50. I'd always go a little extra. Failed bids for 2 and 16. I was the $16 bid for Stowers, so I was the failed. Stowers been really effective of late. The last week, 2 weeks. I didn't want to say 2 weeks. Let's pull it up. Last 2 weeks, hitting 282. The last week, hitting 316. He's actually got his average up to 300, and his OPS is over 800. He's going to play every day for Miami. There's not a superstar in waiting here. There's a very effective player. And in a 14-team league with 5 outfielder spots, he absolutely could be a 5th outfielder. Absolutely. JP Sears went for 48. Failed bids for Sears. The next highest was 12. Sears is pitching on some borrowed time. He misses some bats, but not a lot. Doesn't beat himself with the walk. The home runs are going to be there. He's been very effective, but he's just not. He's just in a 10 or 12 team league. He's just a streaming option. It's very tough to get excited about him as someone you want to start 20 times the rest of the way. In a deeper league like this, you know, not a problem adding him. And again, he's really kind of matchup based. Tinoco, who might be the closer in Miami. He's in the mix in Miami, of course. $37 there. Edgar Cuero for $34. Cuero's performed very well for those people that, you know, focus completely on Ramirez behind the dish. Edward Cuero of the White Sox, it's 11 for 32 with 4 RBIs and 350. So a very good start to his career. We'll see what happens once they get Hole behind the dish, but he's doing a very good job. And obviously, if he keeps doing this, you know, he can hang around long term for the White Sox. They got nothing to play for. Page went for 33 here with the failed bid of 28. So obviously very close bidding for him. Brooks Lee went for 18, failed bids of 5 and 1. John Birdie went for 17. Joey Ortiz for 16. Miguel Amaya for 11. You know, getting a little bit of boost there in the bullpen. Colin Ray went to player props for 10. Failed bids of 1, 1, 9, and 1. Zach DeZenzo for $8 to Adam Ronis. DeZenzo, he's been sharing time with Cam Smith, but what we're hearing is that Cam Smith might start playing a little bit of center field. There was a report this morning. Let me verify this. Where is it from? Where's it at, Ray? I saw it this morning. Come on, guys. Chas McCormick, according to Chandler, who is one of the full-time people that covers the Astros, said Chas McCormick is almost out of this lineup completely. Numbers are pretty solid, but just falling out of favor. And so if we start seeing more of Cam Smith in center field, maybe DeZenzo gets more playing time. The bottom line is another youngster who could be walking in some playing time, and for $8 out of $1,000, you're just taking a shot. Crawford for $7, again, an astute pickup there. Emerson Hancock for $4, failed bids of 1 and 1. Hancock is somebody I wrote about over at fantasyguru.com, so do yourself a favor and check that out if you want to see my thoughts on Emerson Hancock. Where is my team? Let's pull it up here. We're almost to it. I thought so. Yeah. Camilo, I went 67. Will Vesta, I went 67. We talked about that. Kasperius for $2 again. Ryan Gusto for $1 again. Hogan Harris for $1. Andrew Painter for $1. Dr. Roto's just going to take it. Like, whereas I'm stashing Griffin Jacks, Dr. Roto's going to stash Andrew Painter because he's not going to be up for a long while, potentially a couple of months, maybe a month with the Phillies. He's obviously on a pitch and workload count this season coming back from injury, but Painter, a dynamic option on the hill, arguably the top rated pitching prospect in baseball. So we'll see what happens to him when he's finally promoted. Finally, I should have clicked the slide over. Apologies to everyone on that. Finally, Tout Wars. And Tout Wars was kind of quiet this week. 15-team mixed league, $1,000 in Tout Wars, just like in LABR. If you add a player, they have to be in your lineup. So you can pick up, I could pick up Jordan Lawler right now if I wanted to. But I'd have to have Jordan Lawler in my active lineup for a week. So it's like, it's really tough to pick up rookies once the season begins because you're just taking zeros all week. It also makes it difficult to add pitching because you don't want to add hypothetically. I mean, who's pitching? Let me pull this up so I don't have to do a hypothetical. Let's do an actual real world, right? Probable pitchers. Who are the Yankees playing this week? They're playing Baltimore. Maybe I want to grab Kyle Gibson, right? Because he's about ready to join the rotation for the Orioles. But then you look and it's like, well, Kyle Gibson might pitch tomorrow against the Yankees. I don't want that. In this league, if you added Kyle Gibson, he'd have to be active. So that can tramp down the bidding process price-wise as well as the overall numbers involved because you got to have guys active. Gusto, we talked about, again, $47 is right in that 5%-ish range we've been talking about with him. Tawa for $67. I don't love that because, again, Perdomo's done a great job for the Diamondbacks. Jordan Lawler, they're going to have to promote him at some point. I mean, you can only leave that talent down there when he's performing like he is in the minor league level. I just saw there's a blurb here. He went 2 for 5 with a double, couple of runs, couple of RBIs, stole a base. His OPS is 1,100 right now. He's hitting 350. He's stolen 12 bases in 26 games. Like, how long can you keep that down on the farm? Ketel Marte is closing in on a return from his ankle injury. I don't love that on Tawa, but short term. Howard Bender went 217 for Drew Waters. Ooh. I wonder, did we accidentally hit an extra button there? Should it have been 21? Should it have been 27? I wonder, because 217 is very aggressive. Now let's see here. Maybe I can pull up Howard's team real quickly and see what he's dealing with. Maybe he's dealing with an injury. Let's see here. Standings. Pulling this up. Folks, we're doing this real time here. Howard Bender's squad. His outfield currently is Jake Fraley, Jacob Jung, Wyatt Langford, Harrison Bader, and Julio Rodriguez. Yeah, that's not good. He lost Garrett Mitchell this week. A couple of weeks back, he lost Matt Wallner. So, yeah, he's dealing with injuries in the outfield. So that's probably why he was so aggressive to get Drew Waters. Scott Pianowski added Wegeman for $31, Frazier for $4, just plugging holes there. Derek Van Riper went 37 for Duvall. Why is it so low? Remember, this is a solds league. It's not a saves league. It's a sold league, saves plus holds. So we don't need to be super aggressive with guys like Duvall. $37 is still a good addition because and I had this comment in Discord, he looks like the previous Camilo Duvall, and he does. And as we talked about in the preseason, he's one of only a handful of guys that has 20 saves each of the last 3 years. Really good pitcher. He struggled last year mightily in the second half. He's a really good pitcher. He's back on his game. DeZenzo for 22 here. Jace Jung, the brother of Josh, to Derek Van Riper, $22. Tout Wars is an on-base percentage league, which greatly helps. The infielder, the infielder of the Tigers greatly helps him. I dropped Chase Dollander. I took a shot on Dollander. Colorado got him as is anticipated. Ray, you're not a Dollander guy. I'm not, but remember, this is a 15-team league. And remember as well that we're dealing with injuries. I lost Max Scherzer. I had to drop Bobby Miller, who never, joined the rotation. I'm just, So I got Yamamoto, Castillo, Ryan, Robbie Ray, Luzardo. So I have a really good 5, so I need that 6th guy. I grabbed Colin Ray for $26. We'll see how it goes. This league is not a wins league. It is an innings pitch league. I'm hoping to get 5 1/3, 5 2/3 out of Ray every time he takes the hill. And so there it is. So that's the review there. Hope that made sense to everybody. One final note, Angelo said he grabbed Cade Smith. I find it really interesting. Cade Smith is now, I'm getting questions about dropping Cade Smith. And I will say this. I really get the sense that no one, because Cade Smith was somebody that I've said all along, look, for a rookie, sure, right? Is Cade Smith somebody that could have a strong season? Yeah. Cade Smith. I'm thinking of what's his face? Who am I thinking of with the Astros? Oh my gosh. Cam Smith, that's what I'm thinking of. Apologies to Angelo. Cade Smith is a good addition. Cade Smith, because obviously the situation with Emmanuel Clase. By the way, I did get a Cam Smith question this morning. I think it was Cam Smith. I better make sure. Let me verify that. Go to Discord real quickly. Did I give Cade Cam? Did I mess him up? Cam Smith. Okay, I got the question right this morning, just to verify that. Okay. But yeah, Cam Smith now. Now people are dropping Cam Smith. Cade Smith, a good addition. We'll see what happens with Emmanuel Clase. All right, so there it is, folks. There's the rundown for today. We'll be back tomorrow here on the show, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We'll do a little bit of baseball for about a half hour to start the show, and then we'll do our review of football. We'll have Armando Marsal in, and we'll talk the draft. Is Sherrod Sanders still waiting to get drafted? Was that a cheap shot? Yeah, okay, it was. We'll talk to Armando tomorrow about that. Over at FG today, there's an article right now that's up on pitching, so check that out. I'll have my Rays plays up for the DFS angle. We'll get some wagering up later in the afternoon as well. I'm going to do some potting later tonight after I do the Elite Sports Game Time show at 8 to 10 Eastern on Sirius XM with Justin Frenchman. I got a big day. Hopefully you got a big day here on Monday. Get after it, folks, and make this a good week. So thanks for joining me today. Tell a friend about the show. Appreciate the positivity in the chat room as we get all the time here. You are good people, folks. So thanks for listening today. We'll talk again tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern, right here on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.